All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Christopher Eddy from New Horizons. I'd like to welcome you to our next level webinar series. Today's topic is ITIL and its relevance to today's market. I'm pleased to welcome Bill Berger, the Burger Man, as our presenter today. He is a technical instructor from New Horizons, Southern California. He's been with the organization since 1996 and has extensive experience in computing going back to the late 70s. So if everybody could raise their hand for me in the attendees box and let me know that they can hear me okay, I'd appreciate it. Excellent. I'd like to say that if you have any questions throughout the presentation today for Bill, please enter them in the questions or chat box, and when he reaches a comfortable pause, we'll give them to him. And take it away, Burger Man. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the introduction. I am, as I said, William Berger, also known as the Burger Man. I go by Bill for anyone who actually knows me, and hopefully by the end of this 45 minutes, you'll know a little bit more about me as well. So this is ITIL and its relevance to today's market. The questions: have you ever heard of ITIL and ever wondered how it was pronounced? Whether it was ITIL or whether it was ITIL. It really doesn't matter. It's pronounced however you like it. All over the world it's pronounced differently. But it is standing for the IT Infrastructure Library. Are you the least bit curious if it's worth your valuable time? If this is true, you are exactly who we're looking for in this webinar. This is a 45-minute webinar to describe ITIL 2011 and its relevance to today's market. Inspiration is the goal. So are you ready? This is me. I am the geek. I am Bill Berger, also known as the Burger Man. I am the technical instructor for New Horizons, Southern California. Well, I have been technical instructor since 1996. I'm currently the technical training manager, part of the IT committee. My background includes a lot of things that aren't even on here, and in fact, the only real relevant part here is that I've been an ITIL certified instructor for the last 3 versions of ITIL. And that means I drank the Kool-Aid early when most people were still trying to figure out what this English or European thing was in this country. But you didn't come here to learn about the Burger Man. You came here to learn about ITIL. So I'm going to begin with a little fable. Hopefully the slide will show us. Oh, there it is. A long, long time ago, well, maybe not that long ago, Bob is hired as a doer of stuff. Much later, PCs are introduced at COG Incorporated to make everybody's life easier. And unfortunately, this is the beginning of the end for Bob. It's not that Bob is bad with computers. In fact, Bob becomes known as being good with computers. He's the first guy that figures out how the columns feature work in Word. He knows right where the power button is nearly every single time. Well, Bob is just not normal. Bob is known as that computer guy. He starts answering other people's questions, and there are a lot of questions. And when he's answering these other people's questions, Bob starts to fall behind in his work, his doing stuff work. He's busy, but he's not getting the stuff that the company's measuring him on done. Bob becomes that underproductive guy. And because he's underproductive, and because management has good metrics for measuring what the expected productivity is, and you see that Bob is falling way behind on that, management considers letting Bob go. Other doers of stuff freak out. Underproductive Bob is necessary to their success, they clamor. They can't get their job done. If they couldn't have somebody help them with all these computer problems, how would they ever get things done over at COG Incorporated? So Bob becomes the necessary evil. Wherever there's a failed computer and an underproductive doer of things, there's you'll find Bob. a lot of failed computers. Bob promises that things will improve with more stuff and more staff. Bob becomes the IT manager. And he wants to do well. He had no training or experience in management. In fact, the only exposure to management concepts he gets is what it was like being managed by the last person that manages them. And being managed is not a great education for doing management. Bob is no longer good at what he does and secretly wishes he were a doer again. Bob becomes the first in a long series of former IT managers looking for work. There ought to be a better way. And there is. We can call it ITIL. What is ITIL? ITIL is the IT infrastructure library. It is the most widely adopted approach for IT service management in the world. It came about out of Great Britain when the Margaret Thatcher's government actually decided to run all their departments more like a business and tried to hold things, different functions of government, accountable to the best practices of their industry. Making sure things like accounting ran according to best practice is not that hard. We have thousands of years of accounting background. Making things like manufacturing and transportation up to current best practice was not that hard. There were documents, there were libraries, there were lots of people talking about what the best way to do something was. But when they looked at IT, they found out there was no best practice. Everybody had this brand new organization that was consuming a lot of resources, a lot of staff, a lot of money was going nowhere, or seemingly nowhere, and there was no real measurable output. Well, we believed things were better. We were capable of doing things, but how much better was better? We couldn't manage it. It provides a framework of best practice guidance. Now, this framework concept is really important. A little bit of ITIL history. Back in the mid-1980s, when the Margaret Thatcher's government decided to go to establish a set of best practices, they sent people around the world. They sent them all over the U.S., they sent them all over Asia, all over Europe, all over Latin America. They went to government entities, private entities, not-for-profit organizations, and they created a set of documents. It was an enormous library of the current practices, what were perceived as the best practices for each of these world-class IT organizations. If you ask the Navy War College how it was that they were doing their IT, this is how they said they did it. If you asked 3M how they did their IT, this is how they did it. If you asked any of these major companies that were perceived as successful, they participated in the study and produced this huge library. In 1989, the first release of ITIL version 1 books came out, which was just that, a bunch of books that you could read on how other people were doing it. You could use it as guidance, but there was no yet digested model. By 2000, 2001, we had the ITIL version 2 books come out, and the Burgerman got involved in training this stuff. We created a definition of service support and service delivery. IT was not about hardware. IT was not about software. IT was not about tape backup or about hard drives or complaining about budgets. IT was about providing a service to our customer, the business. IT was supposed to measure the level of service we were giving and come up with sort of a no excuses improvement, continuously improvement level of service. This was our goal, and it was revolutionary to a lot of organizations. It was a cultural change to try to get IT shops who had operated in a silo, an us and them kind of a world, to think about the business that they were supporting and to try to become a business-focused and business-enabling organization. The ITIL 2007, in 2007, ITIL version 3 books were published. Now, these greatly digested all the publications from before created a common name set for all the terms so we could speak in a common vocabulary. It may have originally been called one thing when it was at the Navy War College, and the same thing may have been called something else when it was at 3M. But in this instance, we're going to use a common term. We're also introducing the life cycle phases for IT. What is in the pipeline, what is currently being delivered, what is scheduled to be phased out, what has been retired. And we're looking at continuously moving through these cycles. In 2011, the ITIL designation stopped with the every 3-year version number. We're not calling it ITIL version 4, we're just calling it ITIL. And each 3 to 5 years, we're probably going to have another revitalization of the library. But the current thing that we're looking at in ITIL 2011 is business integration. We're not trying to run parallel alignment with business goals. We're trying to make sure that we are a part of each of the successful business functions in the organization. Most business functions, I could say almost all business functions, have some way of touching IT. And so we want to make sure that the experience of working with IT enhances wherever possible and as much as possible the chances of success for each of those business units. Here's a framework. The best practices are non-prescriptive, and this drives some students nuts. When they're starting to learn ITIL, they're like, okay, great, I'm ready to drink the Kool-Aid. I want you to tell me exactly what to do. But it's different. If you are trying to cure malaria around the world, or if you're trying to put the next commercial space flight out to the moon or to Mars, if you're trying to release the next pop video or do the collected works of Shakespeare in theater, your organization has a different objective. Your organization has a different way of doing things. And to force you all to do business the same way would be a disastrous thing. No two organizations work exactly the same way. But there are processes and functions that we have in common. We do not certify with ITIL any products. You cannot go off and buy off the shelf an ITIL certified piece of software or an ITIL certified piece of hardware. What you can do are hire people or work with people who are ITIL certified, meaning they're aware of the best practices, processes, and functions in an IT shop to maximize the success of their organizations. They define processes and functions common to the best managed IT organizations in the world. Some of the key issues that are addressed in the 2011 environment, you can see them here. IT, business strategic planning, integrating and aligning IT and business goals, implementing continual improvement, measuring IT organizational effectiveness and efficiency, optimizing costs and the total cost of ownership, achieving and demonstrating return on investment, demonstrating the business value of IT, developing business and IT partnerships and relationships, improving project delivery success, outsourcing, insourcing, and smart sourcing, using IT to gain competitive advantage over your competition in the marketplace, defining the required business justified IT services, what is required, when it is required, and at what cost do we need to deliver it, managing consistent business and IT change. The overwhelming majority of failures in an IT services are the direct result of deliberate acts made by our IT personnel. It's not that they're sabotaging the IT services that they're supporting, it's that they're not well communicating with the stakeholders and other players in the process, their intent to change, clearing the change against possible catastrophic or even degrading experience, and going through what we call change management. But one of the things that ITIL recognizes is the critical nature of change management. And then demonstrating appropriate IT governance, making sure we comply with all the governance that the business currently has. So what does it look like? This is a crazy complicated slide. The top left-hand side here is telling us, if you see this recording or if you come and take one of my classes, we'll spend a lot more time on this. You'll see what elements came from ITIL version 2, which elements came from that are new to ITIL in 2011, and which ones are functions. Across the bottom, we have the beginning of what's called, well, it's not the life cycle, but it's the phases of ITIL. We work on a service strategy, making sure that we know where the organization is going, know what the objective of the services are, and then we can move into the service design phase. Make sure that the services themselves meet the objectives that were set down in service strategy and are doing so in a very effective way. Then we go through service transition, where we manage the change from our current state of doing into our future state of doing, our future normal. And then we go into our service operations stage. And the service operations stage is really where we live all the time in IT. What Bob was doing when he was running around with that first aid kit was service operations, getting today done. We will deal with tomorrow tomorrow. And it's not a bad thing. It's just a bad thing if it's the only thing we're doing. We need to have a vision for our tomorrows and the days after our tomorrows. And as we look at how we're doing things on a daily basis, we drop into this continuous service improvement area. Continual service improvement identifies new opportunities and options that we could implement to improve the level of service that we give to our organization. And when we see those opportunities, we make sure that they feed back into service strategy and see if there's a need to change our service strategy. And if not, if it's compliant with our service strategy or our new service strategy, we drop back into service design to see how we can best introduce it into the system. And we move into service transition and become the new service operations, and we never stop. These things below it have a 7-step process, the Deming process, all kinds of things that you may have already seen if you're in management. One of the advantages to these courses and these concepts is it educates a person who may have not had the opportunity to have any formal management training into the concepts and practices that are critical for success in management in other areas of the business. For a long time, IT has been its own silo. Other departmental functions know how to work with each other. They know how to present their data in a meaningful way. And IT just did what it did every day, putting out fires. Above each of these phases, service strategy, design, transition, and service operations, we have a whole bunch of functions that are defined and processes that are defined, including incident management and change management, release management, IT service cost management, customer relationship management, capacity management. The IT library, our IT infrastructure library, has a wealth of education on each individual little module. But we start out with a foundational course that is aware of this entirety. You get your organization or people who are practitioners of ITIL to speak with a common vocabulary, to recognize the critical nature of certain types of successes, know what a critical success factor is. So who benefits from ITIL? Well, the customer benefits, and the customer being both the internal customer, the direct recipient of service, and the external customer, because ITIL's mission is not to just provide services for the sake of providing services. Everything needs to have a total cost of ownership, and we need to know if we are impacting the bottom line to our external customer, the person who buys this piece of artwork from us, the person who travels to our theme park to have a wonderful day. Did we positively impact that customer with the services that we produce today in IT? We are not a silo. We help our customers be successful. It benefits the organization. We get more predictable output from the IT department. The IT department goes from being a necessary evil, like Evil Bob or Bob experienced, to becoming an asset. The managers, wow, there is a new generation of folks coming into IT who've had formal management training in the IT practices. But Bob didn't. Bob was trained to do something else. Bob was an excellent accountant maybe, or an excellent whatever. And while he was trained in that and had competencies in that, he just had natural skills in IT. And then, like Peter Drucker says, he got promoted to his level of incompetence. He got promoted into management because we needed him through tenure to be the most tenured employee to run a bunch of other people, and he didn't know how to motivate. He didn't know how to mentor. He didn't understand concepts of teamwork and success and how to lead. These were things that were distressing to him. And when the manager is more effective, the managed can do a better job at their job as well. Implementing ITIL is often a change of culture, and it cannot be done rapidly. I have seen so many people who have tried to implement ITIL, and after 6 months to a year of initiative pressure have decided that it was just a waste of time. And you know what? They were a waste of time because they didn't have enough time to effectively create a culture change. We need to integrate IT into other areas of the business. Strategic and tactical decisions need to have weigh-in from IT, and we need experience participating in the strategic vision of our organization, our tactical objectives for our organization. Right now, ITIL in a lot of shops, not everyone, but IT in a lot of shops is a operational function only. We keep the lights on. We're the custodians of uptime and access, and nothing more. What ITIL will do to an organization is help us focus on IT as a profit enabler as opposed to a load on profit. A lot of time the costs of IT are borne by other areas that can be easily measured as generating revenue, and we decrease the revenue that the other areas are measured with based on the amount of IT load that they carry. We don't want to have that thought. In ITIL, we want the money that you put into an IT infrastructure, into the skilled people that run it, the services, the software, all to have a return on investment calculation. We want to know that by investing in IT, you are going to be enabling greater profits in the future. And with that knowledge comes the appropriate funding for IT. We need measurable outcomes. And some of the measurable outcomes that are listed as common with successful ITIL deployments is increased user and customer satisfaction with IT services, improved service availability, directly leading to increased business profits and revenue, financial savings from reduced rework, lost time, improved resource management and usage. You know, that old adage that there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over, let's kill that. We want to do it right the first time. If we can't do it right the first time, we'll do it right the second time. We will learn from our mistakes. That's part of continuous service improvement. Improved time to market for new products and services. Improved decision making and optimized risk taking. Not all risks are things to be avoided. Some risks are to be embraced because the payoff, if we win at this risk, is so great that it's worth the damage if we fail. So we want to make those decisions. We want to make it fully aware of our capabilities. And our IT infrastructure should be one of those capabilities. So the fable continued. IT moves forward. Do you notice how it became how IT began, and how it moves forward becomes IT moves forward? Bob becomes ITIL certified. You can't ITIL certify the company, but you can ITIL certify Bob. Bob changes the perception of IT from a necessary evil to an indispensable asset. The company can now honestly list their IT processes as competitive assets in their, if you were going to do a assets accounting, the ability to do the things they know how to do so well are an asset to the organization. Bob becomes the hero of his own story. So the question is, have I established any market relevancy yet? I'm hoping that the things I told in the fable up front were not too close to home to where you currently are. Maybe it's things that you've seen in the past. Maybe they're things that you've lived through and your organization has moved to a better state of being. But if any of that fable sounds familiar, I hope that means that ITIL has a promise of improving where you currently are. And if you ever wanted to be the hero of your own story, hopefully that makes ITIL a part of market relevancy. If you want to know more about ITIL, that's great. That's exactly what New Horizons does. We help people know more. We pioneered technology training more than 30 years ago, and we never stopped. So if you were going to look for training opportunities or learning opportunities at New Horizons, we have an ITIL Foundations class. There's actually another course that's available that is a one-day class or even a half-day class, just getting ITIL buy-in from your executive overview. You could ask somebody about that. ITIL intermediate classes focus on any of several different paths. We either focus on a process like service design, or we focus on an individual concept like continuous service improvement, operational support and analysis, planning, protection, and optimization. Please set your expectations if you're going into an ITIL experience that Foundations is a awareness, concept, and vocabulary course. You can get it done in 3 days. That's all the Foundations class is. And if you find yourself in ITIL boot camp, often it's 2.5 days with an exam in the second half of the third day. And out of a 3-day commitment and a bunch of evening time for studying, you can walk away already certified in ITIL Foundations. Does that mean that you're qualified to implement the new processes? Not yet. So if you're planning on implementing, you want to plan on studying deeper into the individual books, looking at the intermediate classes. The expert systems at the very end, managing across the life cycle, integrates all the learning you did at the intermediate levels, building on your understanding that you got at the foundation level, and makes you a ITIL expert. And ITIL experts are being picked up by people all over the world. There's a great case study available at the ITIL's official website. They don't mind you picking it up and looking at it, how the Disney Corporation implemented ITIL. There are major corporations all over the world that have adopted it. Where the U.S. feels that it's relatively new, it's only new here because, well, we just started doing mergers and acquisitions with our European allies. And a lot of the people that we worked with from Europe have been doing ITIL for 20 years already before they came and looked at how their businesses were doing it in the United States. So glad to have the ITIL time on our shore. And that is the extent of the slides that I have produced. It went through it a little quicker than I expected. But we have a survey, should be available at a company called metricsthatmatter.com, and the /RNGE36CTY would be the way to get to that survey. And you would want to look for the webinar called ITIL and its relevance to today's market, and my name, Berger, after it. If you've got questions that you want to throw my way, I'd be glad to help you with them. I'm hearing an audio feed right now.
I don't see any questions in the chat box, Bill. If anyone has any last-minute questions, please take advantage of the opportunity. No, looks like everybody's good, Bill.
All right. Well, I can talk about ITIL for many, many, many days, and it must have just been my excitement and enthusiasm that got me done early today. But I can do a 3-day, a 5-day, a 1-day, a 1 hour, and this is probably the quickest talk I've ever done on it. So there's a great deal of depth and complexity available in the IT environment. I hope you got at least a little bit of enthusiasm from it, and if you've got questions, let us know.
Great. Thank you so much for such a clear and concise presentation. It was excellent.
You're welcome.
I'd like to let everybody know that the recording of today's webinar will be available online at youtube.com/user/NH United, and a link to the recording will also be emailed to registrants for today's webinar. So thank you very much, Bill, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.